Hey y'all, welcome to the Team LocoFit Roundtable, hosted by me, Laurin Conlon, owner of Team LocoFit. Each week, I am joined by one of our coaches to dive headfirst into the nutrition, training, mindset, and coaching strategies we use with our clients. If you loved the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, tell a friend, you know the drill. And for more information about coaching, the programs we offer, and additional content, visit teamlocofit.com.
Welcome to the boob tube.
Oh, beating me to it.
Yeah, I mean, it was what we were just talking about like 2 seconds ago.
So, as you can tell, we are talking about boobs today.
Hell yeah.
One of my favorite topics.
Oh, yes.
In particular. So, a few years ago, actually it's like...
Was it like 5?
5 years ago, I got an augmentation, and I made a YouTube video series about it because at the time, I was looking and people didn't really have a lot of information about it. You know what I mean? Like, they basically would do a video and they're like, oh, this is my CCs and it was great and I love them. And you're like, okay, thanks. Like,
and
that's
what else?
not really useful. So at this time, I had like just gotten a camera. I had like just started doing YouTube videos, and I did it around Christmas break because I was in grad school. So I didn't have shit to do. So I was like, all right, I'll just record a video. It was literally me sitting on the floor with like my zip up because it was so easy to wear a zip up. Just me talking. They're horrible videos, but people
definitely watched some of them.
Yeah, but they were useful.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I didn't have as good of a.
No, yeah, I found myself trying to look for more like videos like that when I was like a day post-op and like a week post-op, because part of my brain was like, is this normal? And then I just wanted to see what everyone else was experiencing. So yeah, I find it super helpful.
No, they were. So I did those so many years ago, and I still have people now who are like, oh my god, I watched those videos or whatever. People have gone to my doctor because of the video. It's really cool. So I'm like, all right, at least that was something good. And then so you just had yours done a month ago.
Yeah.
So the first month is really when a lot of stuff is happening. So we wanted to just go through, a few of the most important things. We got a few questions. Well, you got a few questions. So we're gonna answer those too, and then really, we'll do another follow up maybe in a few months when things are like 100% recovered.
Yeah, at that point I'll be training again like normal.
That's what I
to do more.
Too. Yeah, I was like, all right, did one video every week for the first month because everything's happening then, and then I did like a 6-month follow up. So we will do a follow up, but these are kind of the initial things. So first, let's just get into, why somebody would get them, right? And I think that a lot of times people struggle with this because they, first of all, this is your choice 100%. If you want to get them, if you don't want to get them, the only reason you should have any type of surgery, especially an augmentation, is because
you want it.
You want it.
Yeah.
So let's just get that out of the way. Don't get it because you think you need it for competing.
Yeah, that's a big question.
So many people
are you getting it just to compete, or are you getting it just because you want them? And it was, for me, it was never about competing. It was just like something I've always thought about.
Yeah, and explain a little bit about your background, how that influenced it.
So we kind of went over my story with my dieting history. So by the time I had lost that initial 75, 80 pounds, obviously things change with your breasts as well when you lose body fat, especially if you lose a lot of it, quickly too. So by the end of that, initial diet, I really had nothing to work with, and over time, like my skin tightened up a little bit, but it was definitely like really flat for a long time. So I've been thinking about it since that point, and it's always been something for me that I was personally insecure about, because literally I can look in the mirror and be like, well, the only thing I would change is like
filling it out,
because the ability to be filled out up top.
You had when you obviously have boobs, your skin stretches out. You know what I mean? So you have the availability for it.
Yeah.
Which is very different than like if you'd always been like an A, right? Like that's different than if you had boobs and then you lost weight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that because, like you said, it did tighten over time, but it still was never.
Yeah, like it was really. I mean, for me, like at one point, it was just like it felt like looser than like anyone would really be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And of course, like a lot of people are like, oh, don't be insecure, but like for me, like I'm not really like, I don't feel any kind of way about saying that. It was just something for me, like personally, I always thought about it, and I knew like if I could change anything, that was really something I would want for myself. But I did go back and forth with it for a lot of years. Maybe like the past 3 years, I've just been like on the fence about it. So
yeah, and it is a big decision. It's not something that you just wake up and you're like, oh, should I get my boobs done? Sure. Like there has to be some thought into there. There has to be some planning, and thinking, okay, do I want this one day but then not the next, right? Like it should be something that you're consistently thinking about that you really want. And the same thing for me, well, not the weight loss story, but my whole life I always wanted boobs. Like literally I would stuff my bra all the time. Like when I was a kid I would like put socks in there. I always wore like the biggest push-up bras. Like I've just always loved boobs. I used to watch Dr. 90210 growing up. Like I just loved that whole thing. And so I finally, like when I got to an appropriate age and place in my life when I could do that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. And it was nothing out of like, oh, I hate myself or I need this to make me better or I need this for compete or whatever. Like
or anyone else. Like
no,
you ever need it for anyone else.
So those are kind of the things that I would say that if you're thinking about it, think about it and like sit with it. Like live with that feeling. Don't just go like, you know, it'd kind of be like if I was like, I'm gonna dye my hair bleach blonde, right? First of all,
it's definitely a big decision.
Not doing that. Don't worry, everybody. But that would be something that like that is such a big change for me that it'd be like, all right, let me think on that. And that is not, I mean, I guess the surgery isn't permanent, but it's a lot more permanent than hair color, right? So you should, or like a tattoo, right? You don't just wake up and go.
I was gonna kind of go there too. Like if I'm gonna get a tattoo, it's probably something I've thought about for a while. I mean, the most of, I'm half and half because I've gotten tattoos like within a week of thinking of it, but I don't regret them. But at the same time, if you're getting a big piece, you probably are someone who's thinking about it longer than a week. So,
exactly.
It's definitely something you want to weigh your options with, and if it's something you're going back and forth with a lot of the time, like no, I definitely want them, or no, I'm not going to get it. I'm perfectly fine. That's kind of where I was at like a couple years ago. I was like, I want them 1 minute, and then the next minute I was like, I'm not sure yet. But that's kind of why, this past year I was like thinking more on it in a positive way, where I think I was really close to making that decision.
Yeah, so that would be our first and foremost tip here. Do it for yourself and make sure that you're really comfortable with that decision.
Yeah.
And it's like 110% yes.
Oh yeah, and I already know a difference with like I feel like a little bit more confident overall with how they look too.
Yeah.
So
no, they look great.
Yeah, I'm like really excited about it. So it just like makes me happy because like sometimes I forget about it. Like I'll wake up and be like, oh hello, like, but it makes me like,
So for some people, it just balances things out. You know what I mean? Obviously, you can get crazy ones, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so like distracting. But for a lot of people, at least for myself, like I got them like, all right, this fits my body. It's like, oh okay, like this person has boobs, like Laurin has boobs, Jill has boobs, but it's not like, oh my god, like you're like 1,000 cc's like in somebody's face, like right, like first of all, whoa, but
I don't know if that's a thing, but
it definitely is a thing.
1,000?
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
I mean, people get like hella implants. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it depends on the person's body too.
Yeah,
like, but yeah, we're not gonna get into that. We're not gonna get into botched. If you want to watch that, watch botched.
Not before you're gonna get surgery though.
Yeah, don't. So type. So there's two types. There's saline and then there is silicone. And the new silicone that changed, I don't remember the date. So at some point, silicone got pulled off the market.
Yeah.
They changed them, and now the new ones are what you'll typically be heard, the gummy bear silicone. So they feel like natural breasts, which is amazing. And the whole point of them was that if you do cut them, they don't necessarily leak, which obviously was the issue with old implants.
The old ones, yeah.
And the thing with saline is that it is a silicone bag filled with saline. And
it can have ripples in it, I'm sure, because he has my doctor, he had one of them in his office to show what he doesn't use anymore. He'll very rarely would I ever recommend this, like I don't like using it.
They're not, well, the textured ones have come out that they basically can hold more like bacteria for whatever reason with like the surface area. It's interesting. So most people do not use those anymore. And so saline can be great for some people, but not for others. It does have a higher risk of rupturing because there's less structure, and you would think, oh well, it's just saline then, but there actually is the silicone coating, so that's kind of where I don't know, I'm like and they don't feel as real as the silicone ones, like the gummy bear silicone, so that's something else to consider. But some people, it's better for them to use that. They can do some different techniques with how they insert, like you can go through the armpit with saline. You can't do that with the other two because you start it with nothing and then you fill it up. So if there's a really big size difference, it might be better for somebody in that situation. So there are a few benefits there. Obviously that's something that you consult with your doctor, you decide. A lot of these questions, we're just sharing an experience. Like you need to go talk to the doctor.
You'll get a lot more insight on what they're going to look like, and they're going to pretty much guide you along, like, in that first consultation. With literally, in my consultation, he like put one in like my sports bra that I brought, and it was pretty close to what I ended up having here.
Yeah.
So
they're going to know. They're the experts. Obviously, go to a good surgeon with good reviews. You might not necessarily go to the first one that you might go to a consulate, you might not like them, that's fine. Read reviews online, like all these things.
Yeah,
and
they'll show you their work too.
Yeah, so you can see a lot. Most of those people have portfolio, like galleries online. And then also too, like you'll notice like when you go to the office, like you kind of start, you kind of like look around, and when people come in and out, you can see like, okay, are these people that I probably want to look like? Like that is a thing. If everybody's coming in and that is not a look that you like, maybe not the doctor for you, right? Never let a doctor kind of, you have to come in with an open mind, obviously, to listen to them, but you also need to have a personal preference. If you're like, hey, I kind of want to be on the smaller end, and they're like, no, you should do this. You're like, hey, this is what I want. Obviously, you have to leave some autonomy to them. Like, okay, hey, if this is a different size, I want it to make sure it's even. You do that, but like within reason. But you still have to say like be confident to say like what you want or what look you want. And sometimes I know my doctor said like, hey, bring in pictures or like the people that you like, a friend or whatever it is, what kind of size are you looking at. And then the other part is incision. So
there's like a few different ways that you can get them put in. So for me, I did through the areola. You can go underneath the boob, or you can go through the armpit, and then you can even go through the belly button too, which I didn't know.
That's only with saline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I guess not relevant for what we're talking about. But 3 different ways. But I personally, I didn't really feel any pain with my incision, which is a really good thing about that incision anyway, because less overall pain, and also I think the recovery is supposed to be a little bit better for through the nipple. So
I went under because it was again a kind of a preference. He said, for younger patients, I generally try to do this so they can try to maintain sensitivity. You never know what's going to happen with surgery. You might have full sensitivity afterwards. You might have none. You might have partial. Obviously some people can breastfeed after implants, others can't. It really just kind of depends on the person. But I said, all right, I'll go for it. If I can try to maintain this, I would rather do that. And I do have visible scars. Well, not visible, it's underneath. So if I'm laying down, you can see them. They're not visible because obviously my boobs hang over them. But it's only a few inches, and it's very light. It's nothing that's really bothersome, but you probably don't even have any or probably very minor.
Well, right now I started using the scar cream at week 2, and honestly they're really getting to a point where I don't even see them anymore. Maybe like a few areas where like they just need a little bit more time to heal, but I don't see most of the scar at this point.
So again, that is a personal preference. That's something that you discuss with the doctor. You can go in and say, hey, I'm thinking that this might be the best idea, but then they might say, okay, well, let me direct you in this, based on your body and your goals and whatever it is. And there's also over and under the muscle. So the under the muscle typically looks more natural.
I think we both have under the muscle. Correct.
That's what I did. Because I was like, I don't want it to just look like a bag sitting on top.
That's kind of how I felt with over the muscle. I felt like it was more visible, as like you can see like the implant more visibly if you go over the muscle rather than under.
100%.
So I really like the under the muscle.
Personally, the pros outweigh the cons. I do know people who have it over. And it's because they have very either thick chest muscles or very tight chest muscles. So it worked better again for them. The surgeon, they worked that out. And if people do want to train chest consistently or heavy or a lot, it would probably be better to go over because the reason is when you are training, you obviously are building muscle, and then the implants can start to separate. And again, some of this is genetics. Like if you have certain genetics with the way that you look pre-surgery is most likely how you're going to look post-surgery, just bigger. Unless you go under a whole reconstructive thing. If they're just doing implants, that's not changing the shape of what you look like.
It's pretty much like along the lines of how you're already shaped. It's just bigger. Fuller and
so bigger. If you have a wide set chest, and your breasts naturally kind of sit more out, that's how they're going to look with an implant. So it's going to be, obviously farther out. But that can also happen when they travel with training. If people train too early, if they, maybe have an injury, like they fall or something, it kind of gets displaced, or if they train a lot of chest. So if you're somebody who's like, nope, chest training is a really big priority for me. That is something that I love. I don't want to, risk it, and I don't mind that it looks a little bit more fake. Cool, go do that.
Yeah.
Again, that is something that you discuss with the doctor, and that is a personal preference. So,
and even with my doctor, like I know when I was in my consult, I kind of decided on a certain size, but in surgery I ended up with actually a bigger CC than we had planned for, just because, based on how things look in surgery, your doctor may make some judgment calls there based on the look that you're going for. So that first consultation will really be helpful for the doctor to really know
for sure
what he's, aiming for when you're in there.
And you have different sizes too, right?
Yeah, I have different sizes. So my left is 375 cc and my right is 330. So my right breast was always bigger than my left. And they're like way more even now.
Yeah.
So obviously, because boobs, but the healing process was different for that as well, since pretty much my left side had to be stretched out because of the implant, because that one had way less room in there. Like I didn't have as much tissue or skin as the right side did. So the right side I feel pretty normal within like the first week on my right side, but my left was like definitely the problem titty, where it was just like way more swollen. It was giving me a little bit more discomfort, where my right side I felt pretty normal within a week.
Yeah, mine are both the same size. Naturally, like my shape is like slightly different on one versus the other, but again, that's just like the shape that wasn't going to change with a size. But I told him the same thing. I said, hey, here's kind of look I'm going for. Bring a few in. You decide what is going to look best.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of room. I wouldn't have no room. I was like a small B. It wasn't like a totally flat chested, but I didn't have so much room and, so much stretch. So I said, hey, bring in whatever. And then, you decide what looks good, what looks too big, so that's where you have a good surgeon and you say, this is my look. You make the decision, because you're the surgeon. I can't see what I look like in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Even
in the consult, I just let them choose the first sizer to go in, and then that was really pretty spot on with what I ended up with.
And then obviously, if I wanted to get them done again, I would now be able to go to a different size because I have more room now than I used to. But oftentimes when people shove an implant in that's too big, it's very noticeable, and the recovery just isn't always as good. It's just kind of what I've seen. So recovery, just in general. So 1 month, now you're 1 month here. The first, you said the one side was recovering a little bit, slower than the other, which is pretty normal.
I kind of expected that, since the left one was way smaller to begin with. Even looking at them in my before picture, you could visibly see that one was just sitting a little bit lower than the other, which is normal for a lot of people. I think most people are, not symmetrical anyway, so that made a big difference with the recovery process. I remember I was just sitting on the couch one night after, I think it was day 3 post-op, when I felt really good and I did too much, and then I had to kind of reel it back in the next day, the almost a week post-op at that point. So I was sitting on the couch with just an ice pack next to my left boob, because that one was just not having it. It was just not happy with me at that point. But I feel like the first week of recovery was probably the hardest. I didn't have any pain personally. I don't, and granted, for the first week I was mostly numb in my chest. I could feel maybe the sides a little bit, maybe a little bit on the top, but most of my breast was numb in the first week anyway, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I really didn't have any pain immediately after surgery either. I think it was really just the swelling and getting used to the weight on my chest.
It's just really tight. Obviously, you've just had an invasive surgery. They cut you open, they put something in there. It's very tight.
Yeah. I remember my back was starting to get a little bit strange, just because I couldn't really sit up straight without panicking. So I think maybe it took me 4 or 5 days to really just sit with my back straight and actually help my back relax a little bit.
I told you, I was the worst side effect of recovery for me, and it sounds like was I was having these back spasms because you have to sleep on your back. You can't sleep on your side too early because don't do that. If you do it, you'll roll right back over.
Oh, yeah.
I did that by accident one night and I was like it was awful. But you have to be sleeping on your back and you're often just sitting in that position and you're there for so long and the first week after, you just had this surgery, you can't really do a lot, especially with your upper body. So you're kind of just like walking around the house, not really much that you can do. And then so you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll just sit back down. And then your back is just like I just literally felt like my erectors were.
It was like in my upper back. I felt like my upper back was like straining, so where it was like, when you fatigue a muscle and you just need to kind of just like relax. It felt like that when I was sitting down for a long period of time. But I think that kind of eased up as like the first week, ended, thankfully. But sleeping is still, on my back, unfortunately. I've been trying to like rotate my legs at least. I definitely have been feeling a little bit more uncomfortable, just the fact that I'm not able to move in the middle of the night as I used to. So hopefully sometimes I'll be able to actually sleep on my side, but right now I'm still sleeping on my back.
It's one of those things that it's really bad and then out of nowhere one day you just do it and you're like, oh, this is fine. It's really weird, but certain things still are kind of annoying afterwards. Clearly I've had them for 5 years, like a chest supported row or something that is smashing. I'm not a fan of those. Or if you're somebody's really working on you on a massage table and they're really in there, that can kind of feel a little uncomfortable. But as far as that kind of sleeping pain, it does go away. But the first little while is kind of rough and random things like you said too, which I always thought was funny, the motion of opening a jar or a shake or something like that, especially because I had my incisions under, so wiping a counter or doing anything like that with the arm felt super weird. I'm like,
I was able to make coffee in the first week, so
that's not surprising. You
but opening pill bottles,
you use your feet.
Oh my god, I'm just part monkey, just using my feet for things.
Hey,
but
to get your coffee, you're doing
it's there. If there's a will, there's a way. So, but I think it was really interesting to seeing what you use your chest muscles for, opening the pill bottle. Me and the pickle jar were going at it, and I lost a few times. I had to make Steven open it for me. But just simple things like that you don't even realize that you need your chest for. Brushing my teeth in the morning, I was I can't. I'm moving my head back and forth in the first couple of days of surgery.
I remember washing my face, and you're just it's so close. You're okay, don't move. Where's my washcloth?
Or I would hold my chest as I bend over to get water from the sink.
Yeah, perfect.
This is not ideal, but I think the worst for me was actually just being able to I don't know. I hated feeling useless around the house. I just wanted to be able to do things for myself.
It's just frustrating when you can't, know. So I would say the first week, give yourself mentally prepare. All right, I'm not really going to be doing a lot. And that was one of the questions actually was, how does somebody whether it's a significant other or your family or your friends, whatever, support you during that week. It's just all right, give them that little prep talk. Okay, I'm probably going to be a little uncomfortable. There's going to be some certain things that are hard for me to do, cleaning dishes, wiping on the counter, washing my hair, all that kind of stuff.
Anything that involves your upper body strength.
Literally. So I'm going to be a little bit useless for the beginning. I might need some help getting in and out of bed. It's kind of annoying, but
it's awkward too because you're using your leg muscles to just scoot you to the side of the bed to get up in the morning. Or you're walking like a zombie because you can't really move any of your upper body.
Yeah. And so what about limitations? And again, this is where you have to default to your doctor. This is your recovery process. This is what your surgeon is recommending. I saw so many people, it was horrifying, 4 days post-op, gotta get on the Stairmaster.
Oh no.
And then 2 days later they're oops, pop the stitch. I'm
no.
That should not be happening. If your doctor said my doctor at least said first 2 weeks 0, you don't do anything. If and then at 4 weeks it's all right, you can start to incorporate some stuff, you can start to do some light training. At about 12 weeks you're pretty good to go. So it's if you can't take a month off, this is an issue.
It's gonna be a big issue if you
this is an issue that you need to work on, because it's okay, if you're saying that you really, really want this augmentation, but you're so afraid of not exercising, we got to work on that. It really it pains me when I watch people do that, because I'd be
you spent money on
this is
your chest and you don't want to risk that.
No, and there's not even a risk just to the implants. Like there could be like blood clots. Like there's a lot of things that could be going on. Like the doctors aren't just saying that because like they just pulled 2 weeks out of their ass. Like there's a reason they suggested that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's annoying, and you get stir crazy because you can't do anything.
You can't sweat. You know, I didn't sweat at all in the first couple of weeks. I tried not to get my heart rate up. Literally, maybe in week 2, I was doing really slow walking, like 0.5 on the treadmill, just to kind of get some kind of step count, just to get me like, get the blood flowing and everything, but nothing crazy. And just in the past week or week and a half, I've been, upping my speed on the treadmill, and that's I'm allowed to sweat and everything and do that kind of stuff. I think, even at week 2, I was cleared for lower body stuff, really, but, carrying anything heavy is not really going to work at this point. So I was really just doing like machine work and anything body weight that I can manage or bands. That's pretty much what I'm sticking with right now. And that should be fine for me for the next... What?
Split squats?
Oh yeah, I did some Bulgarian split squats, body weight on Wednesday.
Fuck those.
And I'm still paying for it today.
Today's love Friday. Them, but they're awful.
I'm even more sore this morning.
I can do the body weight. I don't give a shit. I'm like, I'm not above this. Like, I'm not above this. Is hard with body weight.
When I left the gym that day, I was like, fuck this shit. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, they are.
Bulgarians are the worst.
Amazing, but awful. But yeah, so just
body weight too. Just hard.
Yeah, they're just hard, no matter what. Oh. So take it easy in the gym. Clearly you're not going to be, max squatting or max deadlifting afterwards. And even if you are cleared, you have to go by what feels good on your body.
Yeah, because I knew for a fact that I'm not going to be able to load up any plates on any kind of leg press. I'm not going to use any kind of weight to hold in my hand. So like I wasn't really in a rush at that point to go hard. For
not
me,
going to go do line leg curls.
Nothing stupid like that where I'm like intentionally like putting myself in an uncomfortable spot. But I definitely did like the fact that I can actually get out and like do some kind of cardio and keep my heart rate up and sweat again. Because mentally, I think by week 2, I was definitely like really stir crazy. Like Steven was like, "You look really sad." I'm like, yeah, I'm just really bored and I'm stuck here with my thoughts and I haven't left the house in 2 weeks. So,
it's just annoying.
I felt like quarantine depression all over.
Seriously. No, but that's the real thing. And so I understand why people want to get back to stuff, but again,
you got to do it in a realistic way for your recovery though. So for myself, going out for dinner at least like once a week, that was helpful because like I actually felt like kind of human at that point to like move around or walking around the store, going to, I was literally
get your water. You're just like
literally I'm like I can't. I'm like a T-Rex drinking my water.
You're like, hold on, let me sick.
Yeah, so I gotta be like super creative with just like, passing the time when I have nothing to do because, hey, like on a usual day if I'm caught up on emails and I have nothing going on, that's probably when I would hit the gym and then get back to work afterwards. So, hey, I have this span of time where, I'm kind of just in limbo, so I'm just stuck here with my thoughts about how I'm a shell of who I used to be. But oh yeah, super dramatic. That was super dramatic.
That's a different podcast. So,
A Shell of Who I Used to Be by Chili and San Filippo.
No, really, I get it. We all get it, right?
No,
we're just the team nihilists. All good.
Yeah, I would walk into Steven's office and he'd be like, "Let me guess, you're bored." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it was, it's kind of like anything where you have to just take it slow with recovery. And it's frustrating because there's stuff that you'd want to do around the house, but you can't even do it because you can't move your arms. So you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But again, go into it with these expectations. Just kind of expect the first month to like really take it easy and don't have any kind of crazy stuff planned for that first month. Don't try to like start any kind of big changes. And like you need to let your body recover. You need to let your body heal. That's going to be the most important thing. And then last question was, which I think would be fun to answer, but it's like, what do they feel like?
Oh, yeah.
And this is going to depend on the type of implant that you have. If you have saline, they are a little bit harder. That's just the way that they feel. But for us, the silicone ones that we have are really, really, honestly, they feel like real
they feel
boots.
really natural. Like, I know I got a question pretty much like that. Like, do they feel like they're just sitting on your chest, or do they feel like a part of you? And at this point, like I would say, even in week 3, they started feeling way more natural. Just because I'm getting used to like actually having them and moving around with them,
and they'll settle.
It doesn't feel like this huge weight on my chest anymore. Whereas like week 1 and 2, it felt I was confusing the swelling with just the feeling of having a chest and like the weight there.
Yeah, the swelling is. I mean, again, anytime you get surgery, you're going to be swollen, and especially when you insert something, you're going to be swollen.
Yeah.
So that feels
say,
really
like,
weird.
You know, the first, I would say between, I was just telling you this, like day 3 and 5 is when I really had like just like bloating in my abdomen, and like, you know, I just needed to kind of wait for my system to get back to normal. But day 1 and 2, I wouldn't really say I was like that swollen or bloated, which was super interesting. I was like, hell yeah, I'm not gonna deal with any of this shit. And then day 3 came around, I was like, I'm a water buffalo. So, but that's just something you have to wait out anyway, because I know a lot of people are gonna freak out about that with just the extra water.
Well, and that's anesthesia too.
Yeah, that's the anesthesia, any kind of pain meds or antibiotics that you're on too. So, but that's
a whole host of things.
Yeah,
you're not
you just have to
moving.
wait it out.
Like,
drink your water, wait it out, and you know.
But yeah, they feel great. I would say that it takes a few months for like everything to settle. Honestly, by like 6 months, everything feels like okay, because you know sometimes one drops faster than the other.
Yeah.
Mine did. I had one that was like literally, because when you first get them, they're very, very high. Again, that's the swelling. That's kind of everything. You know, you just put the implant in, so they will drop. And I remember I literally went to bed and everything was normal, and then I woke up and then one of them was dropped and the other one wasn't, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. And they were like, no, this is super normal. A lot of times it's one versus the other. Yeah. And it stayed like that for, I can't remember, but it was probably like almost like a week. And I'm like, I'm like, is this one gonna go down?
Get with the program.
I was like, is this where I'm gonna like end up? Like, this is awful.
No, yeah. I was thinking the same thing when my left one was way more swollen. I was like, dude, you gotta get it together. Like, this is not gonna fly here.
But then it all goes normal, and then they settle, and there's no more swelling, and they've kind of gone in their position, and they just feel great. Like,
yeah, for me, they feel like pretty natural at this point. Yeah, I have like some kind of like tenderness still, just because I'm like still, you know, a month post-op. But yeah, and something else actually that, just while we're on the topic of things you wouldn't really expect, or not a lot of people like mention, I remember like when I would massage them, I still have to massage them like every day, but when I would, like maybe in the first week and a half post-op, I would feel like a popping or like a bubbling or some kind of like, it's like air essentially being released, or like gas, where the implant is just because like air gets trapped or something, or like something happens there where it just feels like.
What did you guys put in here?
Yeah, it felt like it was like gas bubbles or something getting released when I would go and massage them in the first week and a half. So it sounds like Rice Krispie or something, like it's bubbling or something. Like, and
even now, like,
it was really weird.
Like, I can touch, you know, obviously touch them, and there'll be a time where I'm like, oh, there's a little something, and that's just like scar tissue, right? So like, obviously, if there's going to be, you know, if you're actually having an issue with a lot of pain, again, go see your doctor.
Oh yeah.
But if you feel a little twinge every once in a while, or if you're touching it, then you're like, oh, what's that? You know, there's going to be scar tissue around it. That's just the way that your body heals. So sometimes that is just there as well. It's not like a persistent thing, but it'll just be like, I think there it is.
The bubbling or whatever is like pretty much gone after the first week, I think, just because everything's like settling.
And then again, once it all settles, the swelling is gone, everything's more normal, you're training again, like 6 months, a year, like you're gonna be like, wow, like these are a part of my body. You don't even really notice it, to be super honest. And from our experience, the silicone gummies feel top notch. I honestly think they feel like real boobs, you know?
Yeah.
So anytime a girl's like, I'm thinking about getting them, I'm like, just grab my boobs. I just, like, do you want to feel them? Like, do you want to see how they feel? Like, they're great. They don't feel fake. Because people always think that they're going to be like these weird, fake, plastic, hard things. And like, no, like, they literally feel like boobs. I just didn't have this much before. So that's the only difference. But I think that's kind of everything. And like we said, we'll do one in a few months' time, kind of just as a, hey, some more time has passed, what's different? And then we did get some questions about breast implant illness, so I think we'll touch on that one on the next podcast. Yeah. Because it's a little bit more of a in-depth topic. But yeah, that's all, right? Anything else?
I'm pretty sure. I feel like, you know, at this point, not much is happening, so it's just kind of sitting around waiting for my 6 weeks post-op appointment. So I'm just gonna be, you know, just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
Just chilling.
You and those titties. On the boob tube. You're gonna
on the boob tube. You can subscribe on the boob tube.
We just changed the whole name.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody else. They're like,
It's not the LocoFit round table anymore.
It's just the boob tube.
Yeah. That's BEWB tube.
Obviously.
Duh.
Do we really need to say that?
Beans.
But so thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to leave us any specific questions, currently it is still called Questions Anonymous or Anonymous Questions. So we're doing this segment.
Questions Anonymous. Questions, anonymous.
As you can tell, really struggling with the creativity as usual. So
creative director agrees.
Yeah, we have still not come up with a name, but the link is available. We will have that in the show notes. We'll also have that in our Instagram bios in case you guys want to submit any kind of situational question, whether it's mental health related, relationships, nutrition, training, coaching, business, anything like that, we will address. They are all, hence the name, anonymous, so you can feel comfortable sharing information. We won't know who it is. And if you want to check out our website at teamlocofit.com, you can do that. We can apply for coaching. You can check out the other podcasts. We put out new articles every week and even more information on there just about the team. So thank you guys as always, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
All right.